Hey everybody, we're going to talk about types of triangles in this video. So we have two different ways of classifying triangles. One is by its sides and the other is by its angles. So the first thing we'll look at is sides. A scalene triangle has no congruent sides. That means all three sides of the triangle have different lengths. An isosceles triangle has two congruent sides or more. But the or more part is an equilateral triangle where it has three congruent sides, which means all three sides of the triangle are the exact same length. Angles. We have acute, which means it has three acute angles. They do not have to be the same. They could be in the fact of an equilateral triangle, but you need all three to be less than 90 degrees. A right triangle has one right angle. And the reason why you only have one right angle is because the sum of all angles in a triangle will always add up to 180 degrees for all three. So if you had two 90-degree angles, you're already at 180. You don't have room for a third angle. Same with obtuse. You have one obtuse angle. Okay, so a little catch on the sides. You'll have the same number of angles that are congruent as well. So if you have no congruent sides, you'll also have no congruent angles. And same with this. You'll have two congruent angles in an isosceles, and you'll have three congruent angles in an equilateral. Okay, but those are classified based on its sides. So let's look at a couple of algebra problems. The first one, as you can see, all three sides have the same tick mark. So this is an equilateral triangle, which means all three sides are the same length. So for this, it really does not matter which two sides you pick. All you have to do is set them equal to each other. So we'll just take 3x is equal to x plus 4. That'll give us 2x is equal to 4, which means x is equal to 2. And now all you have to do is plug it in to all three sides, when technically you really only need to plug it into one, because this is equilateral and they're all the same. You could plug it into all three just to make sure you're checking your work. So you substitute in the 2 here, you get a 6. You substitute the 2 in here, 2 times 2 plus 2 is still 6. 3 times 2 is 6, so your perimeter is 18. Okay, and you can say units because we do not have any specified units. So there you go on that one. The next example, you can see in this one you only have two sides that have tick marks. So this is an isosceles triangle. And when you have an isosceles triangle, you just set the two congruent sides, known as legs, equal to each other. So we have 4x minus 6 is equal to 2x plus 2. And that's going to end up giving you 2x is equal to 8, so x is equal to 4. Now for this, you must plug it into at least two of them. So you have to plug it in here to find out that 4 times 4 minus 6 is 10. 2 times 4 plus 2 is also 10. So the legs are going to be equal. But you need to substitute it into the base. 4 plus 3 is 7 to come up with the perimeter of 27 units. Okay? Now a little bit more about the isosceles triangle while we're here. In an isosceles triangle, as I said, the congruent pieces are called legs. And the third side is called the base. Don't always assume it's the bottom, though. We could always knock a triangle over on its side. And then these two angles are known as the base angles, and this top angle is known as the vertex. Okay? And the base angles are the ones that are going to be congruent, opposite of the congruent legs. Okay? That's just a little bit more about the isosceles triangle. So an isosceles triangle has legs that are twice the length of the base, and the perimeter is 20. Find the area of each side. So whenever you're just given a bunch of words about an isosceles triangle, you might want to draw one. And then what it tells you is that the legs are twice the length of the base. So when you are comparing to a certain side, that side becomes x. Since we're comparing to the base, our base is x. Now the legs are twice as long, so those are going to be 2x's. And you were given that the perimeter is 20. And now all you have to do is set it up and solve. So the perimeter means the sum of all three sides. So 2x plus x is 5x. That's equal to 20. So x is equal to 4. So what we were supposed to do is find the length of each side. So we're just going to substitute this in. The base is 4, and the legs are 8 units each. Okay? That's how you use the perimeter and some side lengths to do a little bit of algebra. Last two questions. The one on the left here is another just solve for x problem, but notice how this one is only giving you one of the legs. So you're going to have to just adjust your formula a little bit to see if you can solve for the perimeter. So why don't you, solve for x using the perimeter. So pause the video and see if you can set up an equation that will solve for x. Give it a try. So the secret to this is you also need to call this leg 3x plus 4 because they are congruent. So then your equation, you add up all three sides. 3x plus 2x is 8x. 4 plus 4 is 8. Set that equal to the given 48. And all you have to do is subtract. You get 8x is equal to 40. So then that means x is equal to 5. And there you have it. Now this last one, it says classify by its sides. If you are really, really slick, you can do this without finding the length of every single side. However, classifying by its sides means we need to know the length of all three of them. So you're going to have to use your good friend, the distance formula. For all three sides. And once you have the length of all three sides, you can classify this triangle as either scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. So why don't you pause the video and find the distance of all three sides, and we'll see if you did it correctly. And if you got isosceles, you are good to go. Now, like I said, unless you were really, really slick, you didn't really need to use the distance formula. But the best way to approach this problem is to find the length of all three sides. And that would be using the distance formula for the left side, the right side, and the bottom. You would get 5 for the left, 5 for the right, and the square root of 2 for the bottom, which means it has two congruent sides. So you call it isosceles. That's it. You're good to go. This is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye.